Alright, what we're going to do is replace the front portion of the parking brake for 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Start off with, you're going to have to remove all your stuff out of the center console, because then I'll get all my stuff pulled out. You have to remove screws. There's in the front tray, there's 2 screws in there. Under your cup holder is 2 more screws, and then inside the console itself are 2 screws holding the inner tray inside, and I'll show you the next step in a minute here. Alright, now after you remove your inner tray out of the center of the console, there are 3 screws. There's one down here, it's the top center of this lower box, and then you have to slide your cup holder back, and then there's 2 screws under there. So you remove those 3, and then I'll show you the next step for pulling the console. Okay, with the front screws out, just get a screwdriver under this lip and pop this tray up. Slide it out. The rest, these other screws are out, so the whole console is ready to come out. Now, you're going to have to move your shifter and transfer. Just bring them all the way back. Have your foot on the brake, because you probably don't have any parking brake right now. And then the console will lift right up. Pull your brake arm up too. Lift it up and out. And we can see in here, you can see my end piece broke off of the cable, which is this. There's 2 or 3 tabs on this where your cable pops in. Since you're replacing it, you can just grab these with a plier and snap them off, so you'll be able to remove the cable. And then I'll show you the next step from the rear seat, what we have to do. Alright, now we are in the back seat. I have my seats folded forward, and in the center hump, now I've got the amp and I obviously need to vacuum too, is where the other end of this cable comes. You can see right in here. This also has one of those compression fittings, and under the rug is this bracket located. We're gonna get the rug up in a second here and go on to the next step. Again, with the rear, you can pop those tabs off because you're just pulling the cable out and trashing it. Alright, in order to get the rug up, we'll go from on the driver's side rear seat, and there's 2 brackets. We've got to pull these bolts out and remove this bottom part of the seat, so we'll be able to flip our rugs up. So I'm going to take those bolts out now. Alright, now I got my rug up. You may have to pull the other seats. You only need to remove the lower screw and back out the others. But then that, you can see, is where that cable is, or the clamp down. So you can get in there and take those 2 nuts off. I cut my rug a little bit just to work my way under it. And then you can remove the cable. Alright, next we want to remove the parking brake. It's on a bracket. There's 1, 2, 3, and then under here 4 nuts. Pull these off. There's also a wire here on a switch. Just be careful. You can pull that off or just leave it on. Just don't yank this whole assembly too far because it's a short wire. Once this is removed, then we can slide the cable covering out from both ends and remove it from under the seat. Okay. I removed my whole brake assembly, because I want to show you the inside of this mechanism. I found mine with it in kind of this position. This spring hits this first tab here, and then the whole thing spins around. You have to put this tab down. I'm going to try to do this with two hands and rotate all the way around. Now this is where your clip goes into on the end of the cable. There's a little awkward angle of the camera, but you want to get this clip. You have your brake in the down position, and you may even have to push on this a little bit so you can rotate the whole thing around, and then you take your end. Now this is all going to be fed through. It's not fed through right now, but I'm just trying to do this so you can see. You bring your cable under in this groove. This is the tricky part. And then you just feed it into that hole like that. And get it locked in. And that's that. So once you get everything into place, that's how you got to clip it in. I just have to do it externally to show you because it's tricky to do. Okay, apparently there's another bracket under the rug, a little closer to the center console. What I did, instead of pulling all the rug out and everything else, I just cut the end off that was closest to the console, and since my cable was broken, I slid that out before I cut it. But yeah, just with a hacksaw and then some snipper shears. My replacement cable only had one bracket on it, so I didn't know there was the other one in there. So when you go to slide it in, you want to go in from the rear seats forward. It's going to be easier, and just make sure you slide your cable all the way in so you don't kink the cable. I'll show you what it looks like after it's slid through. Alright, I've got my bracket bolted back in. I got my cable in place. I pulled it forward, and now I'm going to loop it onto here, like I had shown earlier. Okay, you can see I got my cable in, and most importantly, don't forget to connect that wire if you took it off. And then we're going to connect the rear now. All right, I've got my bracket in place, and then what you do is use a screwdriver or a wrench or something and pull on this. This cable's spring loaded now because it's loaded through your lever, and then slide on each one of the rear cables through the sides, and that's it. I've got my nut bolted down, and I'm going to bolt everything back together. And make sure you test your brake first before you put everything back. You should be good, should require no adjustments. And that's what the rear looks like when it's all popped in place. Okay, there you have it.